Hi everybody, welcome back to Let Her Cook, brought to you by BSCN. I am Jackie Dutton, your hostess with the mostest, and today we are going to be making lasagna soup. It is kind of exactly what it sounds like. It's basically lasagna, but it's a soup. So today the ingredients are actually going to be really simple, and we're going to start with some onions and garlic and some meat. And basically you're going to build the meat base just like a traditional lasagna. And the real difference is that we're just going to add a bunch of broth, noodles, and then we make up our cheese mixture to add after the soup is finished. So let's get started. And if I absolutely blow through this, there is also another little thing that we can make, because I think you will be surprised at how easily this comes together. And also, if you try it at home, how delicious it really is. So we have really seen like a really bad sideways market as of late. One day we're up to Bitcoin at 105. I think we're back down to 101 today. I don't know, guys. I do think that the shutdown is probably starting to take its toll. I have friends that are federal workers and they haven't been to work in over a month at this point. And that's obviously starting to weigh on everybody, mainly because they're not receiving a paycheck. They will get back pay. The Senate obviously approved that just a couple days ago, and I think the House has to as well. But like, what the fuck are you doing at this point? You're just like holding other people hostage who just want to go to work and make money, and they're not involved in your little 300-person decision-making club where you can't actually do anything productive. So clearly, I have a great opinion of our general's goings on in DC there. I know, never. That's not my husband crawling on the ground. That's my dog. All right. So I'm just gonna finally as I can, chop this garlic up, and then we're gonna get started with this. And if there's an echo, we can shut this camera up because I could hear it in my ear and it's obnoxious. And I'm just trying not to cut my fingers off right now. So soup season has arrived just in time because it was freezing here the last couple days. I live on the East Coast. And really yesterday in the morning, I woke up and I was like I almost started laughing. I looked at the weather, the temperature pops up on my home screen of my phone, and it said like 33 degrees, and then it said feels like 22 because the wind was blowing to go with it. And I was just like, no, immediately no, absolutely not. I was just kind of done. Like the second I saw that temperature. When I was little, I grew up in California. That's where I'm originally from. And when I was little, I used to think that winter was magical. I was like, oh my God, like snow and, cooler temperatures and seasons. That must be magical to live in, right? Yeah, guess what? It's not. It's not. You know what's magical? Being able to wear a bathing suit in February. That's magical. I had no idea how good I had it. And now I'm here with an enormous closet full of clothes because I have to prepare for 4 full seasons of a wardrobe. Okay. So let's get started now that we have chopped things. Okay, so this is just 2 pounds of meat. You can use either ground beef or a mixture of beef and pork. So I am going to do this just because that's typically like a meatball mixture is beef and pork. This is also just whatever I had in the freezer. But you can feel free to use all ground beef if you like. And I'm going to use both of these. I've been debating like whether or not I'm going to use all 2 pounds, but I think it'll be fine. The pork, keep in mind, also will add a little more fat, so you could get away with using a leaner ground beef if you wanted. So I'm just gonna wait forever. So we're using the Le Creuset again today because it's soup season, and it just, it's just the best, right? It is a little harder to clean. I did want to say, because I got a question like a couple weeks ago about cleaning the Le Creuset in the Dutch oven. If you find that there are, thank God that's not that hot. I just stuck my hand in there. If you find that there are a bunch of like black, burned out bits that have accumulated on the bottom of the pan, what you can do is actually just take baking soda. And if the bottom of the pan is damp, coat it in a layer of baking soda and just let it sit. And then after about 10-15 minutes, take some Dawn dish soap and just kind of squizzle that in there. And then you're going to take a slightly abrasive sponge, but nothing like a scouring pad or anything. And you're going to go in and it should come right up. It should scrub away really easily. All right, this is, I get really impatient with this stuff. Today, we're also going to talk about a couple fun projects. One of them is on Solana, and it sadly is very reminiscent of a Black Mirror episode that I watched recently. And actually, this Black Mirror episode was so, like, how when you watch the show, if you have watched it, it just makes you feel like dirty when you watch that show. Just because the topic is typically something like, it's very dystopian. It is a concept that kind of gets out of control. One of my favorite episodes is actually one where they have made mechanical bees to accommodate for the death of actual bees, of living bees. So they have this, army of mechanical bees that go around and they pollinate everything. But somebody hacks the system of the bees and turns them into a viral cancel culture that attacks and kills the person that's being canceled on the internet that week. And it's a wild episode, and it's actually, every concept is really interesting because it just kind of makes you look sideways at something in a way that you maybe may not have thought of. And it takes it to the most extreme level of how bad could it possibly get. Enter Solana and the Dare Market, which now exists. This is for real. So if you go to their website, people will pay you in Solana to do anything for a dare. And you have to, I'm assuming, film yourself doing it, and then they pay you out. We are a real slippery slope here because the episode of Black Mirror involves this kind of like dare market type of thing to help pay for some healthcare situation. His wife gets like a brain tumor and they save her life. But in order to keep paying for this subscription-like service, her husband goes to make extra money and he uses this dare service. The episode was actually so like dystopian and, in my opinion, kind of terrible. I stopped watching it after I watched that one. I looked at my husband and I was like, this has bummed me out so bad. I don't think I want to watch these anymore. And now that we have the dare markets of Solana, oh boy, most of the stuff on there, from what I can see, is fairly harmless. It's like, listen to 50 Shades of Grey, the audiobook out loud in public. Obviously that's kind of a smutty book, and it gets very descriptive, and it goes on and on and on about all of their sexual activities. So yeah, that would be kind of funny. and ridiculous. And as long as the humor stays there, I think we're good. But guys, we know it's Solana. It's going to get out of control. Only a matter of time. Also, the Dare Markets company, they raised $2 million in seed funding. So this isn't just like a side project. This is definitely venturely funded. Okay. I'm gonna add the pork. I know these are chicken shears, but I don't use them that way. Let's see. I can see on my screen the different Dare Markets here that we have put up. All right, so you're gonna want to season this meat. And we're just gonna use some salt, pepper, some red chili flakes, and some Italian seasoning. Basically, when you go to cook Italian food, Mexican food is also similar to this. It's just a rearranged combination of, meat, basically the same type of seasoning, a carb with like your noodles, and tomato sauce. So, but they really have perfected it. Oh, and cheese, of course. And you know where we're not adding to this? A bay leaf. It's not necessary. If you don't have Italian seasoning, because I literally just, it was stupidly easy that way. You can also use marjoram, basil, rosemary, thyme, oregano, savory. I didn't know that was a spice, and sage. I also think I'm gonna sneeze. Please don't make fun of my sneeze. Oh, I think it was the red pepper flakes that got me. Okay. So we're gonna break this up, and when the meat is mostly browned, we're gonna throw in the onions and the garlic. And I'm gonna turn this up. There really hasn't been a whole lot of activity as far as like gossipy drama on the internet this week in the crypto X world. I did see today that Machi Big Brother, who if you don't remember that guy, so I think Machi is like a influencer, key opinion leader. But Zach XBT, the DeFi detective, the blockchain detective, he actually kind of came to the majority of his notoriety in part because he accused Machi Big Brother of some shady dealings. And Machi Big Brother tried to sue him for, I think, millions of dollars. And everybody rallied around Zach XBT and donated to his legal fund. And then when Machi figured out that it was a bad look, he dropped the suit. So He also didn't admit to doing anything wrong. I need to make that clear. He just dropped his lawsuit. Zach XBT may have some personal opinions about whether or not he is still guilty. Okay. And this recipe obviously is going to make a really good amount of soup here. And that's the point, because it's Italian food. Is it really Italian food if it is not an enormous serving? Let's see. Okay. All right, so we're going to add the garlic and the onion at the same time here. And I'm going to try and not spill it all over the place, which will be the real test. And we're just going to keep cooking this until the onions start to get translucent and the garlic is very fragrant. I think the correct term is that, like garlic, ginger, that kind of thing, it's actually an aromatic, which is a nice way to say that it just smells really nice in your food. Okay. So we're going to let that keep cooking for a little bit. I would also like some of the fat to cook out of it for a second. Okay, let's see. Another fun topic. This is absolutely hilarious. BitDeer is a company that I believe, in addition to their crypto ventures and their, AI, I think BitDeer has also incorporated AI within their company model. They are a publicly traded company as well. And yesterday they reported something like a $240 million loss. And then today, just to continue the dumpster fire that is happening within the company, there was an actual fire in Ohio at their mining facility, I think just either last night or this morning. It says the Tuesday fire was extinguished shortly after the local fire department was dispatched and no injuries were reported. That's good news. But what BitDeer is not saying is if any of the mining rigs and therefore the collective crypto was damaged at all, or however they keep, all of the Bitcoin that they mine, if that's safe, because that obviously could be a huge loss as well. So let's hope that they have that under control. Let's hope the only real fire happening is the dumpster fire happening on the stock market. I think it's so funny when you have these crypto companies that are also publicly traded stocks. It just feels like that scene in The Big Short where they're all sitting at the blackjack table and they're explaining how, mortgage bonds work and how people can actually bet on the bonds and like the chain just goes back and back. And basically it creates so many like tree branches of gambling all on actually what is ultimately one asset and one hand being played, that it's all just kind of a house of cards that when it all goes up, it goes up in smoke, like so big, like a Christmas tree. And I just think it's funny that we started crypto to get away from a fiat system that felt like a house of cards, and in 2008 it all fell down. And then now we have incorporated crypto back into the model of Wall Street and the stock market. I don't know, guys. Call me crazy. I just don't know if that's the best idea. Okay, so now that the meat is cooked, we're gonna add in marinara sauce. No problems. And I'm gonna add in the whole jar. Also gonna turn this down so it doesn't splatter on me. And I know what you're probably thinking at this point, like, well, this just looks like the meat base of a lasagna. You are correct. But what I'm about to do makes it a soup. And it's add broth. So you could add beef broth, but I am going to add chicken broth to this. What I'm actually going to do is add water and chicken bouillon. But, you know, if you want to spend money on the packaged chicken broth, you go for it. Okay, so we're gonna do at least 2 jars of water. This is a 24-ounce jar, if you're keeping track of measurements. And now I'm gonna turn the heat back up. So you're gonna wanna bring this to a boil. But before you do that, you're going to add noodles. Perfect. I'm gonna add another like half. Again, this is a soup, not a casserole, so don't be scared to make sure that there is enough liquid. All right, and then I'm gonna get chicken bouillon. And I'm not gonna measure this. I'm just gonna do a ginormous spoonful. And then we're gonna call it a day. And the best part about this is that if it's not salty or flavorful enough, you can add more at the end. Okay. Spoon. Dig for that. Okay. Me not measuring. And you're gonna wanna make sure this gets incorporated if you're using chicken bouillon. All right. These are my noodles that I'm gonna add. You can add flat lasagna noodles and just break them up. You can add angel hair. I've used any other type of shape of pasta as well. These are gluten-free noodles, just because that's my personal preference. But if you don't have problems with gluten, you go ahead and set your world on fire, just like Bit Deer. So I'm gonna add the majority of that box. And we're gonna bring this up to a boil, and then I'm gonna turn the heat down and let it simmer while the noodles cook. And what's 4 more pieces of pasta? Okay. All right, so while we bring this to a boil, we're gonna talk about something else, which I thought was funny. And a little sad if you are, this topic ended up being actually a little sad if you are an animal lover. There is a bodega cat, I think this was in San Francisco, and he was unfortunately hit and killed by a self-driving car called a Waymo. And this cat was named Kit Kat. And because it's crypto and it was an animal, I just feel like cats and dogs and meme coins, they all just kind of tend to go together. So consequently, the crypto degens have launched and are trading a range of Kit Kat themed tokens in response. So there's several out there. There's more than one. And the weirder thing I noticed was the timing of this, which is that I think this happened exactly 1 year apart from the peanut debacle. If you remember the Peanut the squirrel, it was a guy who he had a squirrel as a pet. And apparently he would like film a lot of videos, and it was he and the squirrel were creating content together. And I guess some neighbors or some local people in the state of New York narked on him, and police or some type of authority figures showed up, and they actually killed Peanut the squirrel. So the internet freaked out, and they launched a Peanut token in remembrance of Peanut the squirrel. And there was a lot more drama around that as well, if I can remember, because the guy was pissed. I think he dumped his bag early, or he never got any of the token to begin with. Like, I don't think he knew much about meme coins at all, and I think people ended up donating to him a significant amount. The guy also owned a pet raccoon, just to like add to this. I think his name was Fred. I don't think they killed the raccoon though, just the squirrel. But yeah, so Peanut the squirrel, their token, and then Kit Kat happened exactly 1 year apart. So everyone is feeling that this is meme coin kismet. And it looks like one of the tokens has run up to something like a $14 million market cap before crashing 99% to a $4,000 market cap. And that's why you need to be careful when you trade meme coins, guys. So if you were, making money off of that, congratulations, more power to you. But you've got to get out before the red candle shows up. You know what I mean? Okay. It just occurred to me that you probably could wait until the broth mixture was boiling before you added the noodles like you normally would when you cook pasta. But I don't think that's actually necessary, and this is how I do it, and it turns out great every time. So the last thing we're going to make that goes with this soup is the cheese mixture. So when you make a lasagna, you know that there are really 3 layers that just get repeated again and again. So you have the meat mixture, you have the noodles, and then you have the cheese mixture, which is typically a blend of ricotta cheese and mozzarella or Parmesan, some kind of Italian blend, if you will. And the soup is no different. So we are going to mix mozzarella cheese and ricotta cheese in a bowl together, and some Italian seasoning. You're going to want to make sure that you season this mixture as well. And then when you go to eat this, you will spoon out the soup into a bowl, and then you will top it with this cheesy, delicious mixture, and then make sure you give it a nice stir. And that is how you eat lasagna soup. So we're going to start just mixing this up. Again, you can use Parmesan, but I didn't buy any. If this will come out of the bag. I really end up preferring way more ricotta than I do the other cheeses, because I think they're better tasting. All right, so similar flavors here. We're going to do Italian seasoning. And some red pepper flakes. You can bet in the chat whether or not this is going to make me sneeze. And some salt and pepper. I saw a comedian's bit one time where he was talking about how the most smug asshole in a restaurant is usually the cracked pepper guy that comes around to your table and he like breaks out the pepper grinder. And you notice that there's no salt guy for that. Like up until that Salt Bay guy came out, there was no salt person. And boy, did we get some blowback when we finally got the Salt Bay guy, because the internet just went off with that. Okay. I could be insane and just eat this by the spoonful. This would make me very happy. Like I could completely ignore this soup and just go ahead and eat just this. It would be delicious, but I'm not going to do that. Let's see here. It's so funny because when I look through the, news topics for the day, there just really isn't that much. Let's see. Dogecoin is about to be all over this soccer team's jersey and stadium. I'm going to drop this in the chat for Ben to post for you guys. So Dogecoin Foundation is putting the famous Shiba Inu meme coin logo on soccer jerseys in Italy. So apparently the commercial arm is named House of Doge and Bragg House, and they are putting the Dogecoin logo on soccer jerseys for the U.S. Triestina Calcio 1918 of that soccer club. I have no idea how the soccer clubs work, by the way. If somebody could explain that in the chat, I would appreciate it. I don't understand why it's like it got like years involved. We just have like the Tennessee Titans and that's it. And, we're just as rabid for that. So let's see. A full jersey reveal is pending final creative approval, but they are sponsoring this sports club, it looks like. Floki actually is very well known for being a project that really infiltrated a sports market with a lot of their advertising. And I know they sponsor ping pong events, professional ping pong events, and they've also partnered with various soccer leagues and different clubs as well. I think it's a great way for, ultimately for people to just have more eyes on you, for people to see the logo and go, oh, what's that? And it just for general brand awareness. I was an advertising major in college, and at the time they felt that people needed to see a brand at least 7 times before they knew what it was or they recognized it enough to go, oh yeah, I know what that is. And I think today in the realm of 2025, where we are absolutely bombarded with advertisements and marketing constantly, I mean, your phone is just like shoving shit down your throat 24/7. I think it's actually upwards of 20 some odd times now that you have to see a logo or a brand before you recognize it enough to know what it is and you trust it, maybe. A big feat in marketing is something called know, like, and trust. And that is, really what a brand attempts to do, which is to get your approval and your ability to look at them and go, oh yeah, I know what that is. I know that it's a Mercedes Benz, so I like them. I like the style of that car, and I trust that it is a safe car because Mercedes as a brand only makes cars like this. And that is really a product of marketing for you to look at a brand and think that. So these associations of things like soccer clubs and things that are really close to your heart, or causes, charitable partnerships and donations, this is just another way to play that game for marketing and for attention and that attention share. But basically, you don't get mainstream or mass adoption without having an in-your-face brand that everybody is able to recognize. Coca-Cola, Pepsi, the Target logo, all of these things happened because they just finally drenched you in the ability of seeing it and it almost being inescapable. And all that is just enough money to make sure that that brand and that logo is everywhere until finally there are enough people who can kind of carry the torch. This is also another reason that Amazon reviews became so powerful, because the strongest form of advertising that usually will convert the best is word of mouth advertising. You do not typically you don't just see an ad for something and you think, oh yeah, I love this, I want to buy this. But when you hear about it from someone that you like and you trust, and they say, oh, I bought this thing and it was so great, you should try it too. You're more likely to see a sales conversion because you trust your friend, or you trust their recommendation, or your family member, or whoever told you about it. So marketing in crypto will be no different. And crypto's gotten off to a rough start, and it's going to be really hard to convert a lot of people into the crypto space when it turns from, yeah, I bought Bitcoin when it was, $10,000, and now I have so much of it. And that conversation of oh, well, I bought it low and now it's high, that's a great converting conversation. But I don't know how willing people are going to be to buy into it as far as retail is concerned, when they see, well, you already made a ton of your money back. And that conversion of well, are you still buying Bitcoin, or are you just holding? Are you playing with meme coins? Please, I would love to hear your pitch. The Wolf of Wall Street, sell me this pen. Please let me hear your pitch on having somebody gamble and trade meme coins all day long. I would love to hear why anybody thinks that would be the greatest initiation for someone new to this space. It probably isn't. It's probably instructing them to just buy within the top 10, maybe top 25, and kind of see where it goes. But yeah, I think we've got a long road ahead of us in terms of the marketing department. It's also very hard to convert people when your metrics and the things that you want to crow from the roof about are things like the transaction per second speed of your blockchain and how many transactions you were able to do. Nobody cares. I don't care how my debit card works. I just care that it works when I'm at the store and I go to buy something. And people are no different. So you can break into the technicals of shit all you want, but at the end of the day, people want something that improves their life. They want a story that they can connect with, and they do want to kind of feel something when they use it. Now, we have created an army of gambling degenerates, and sure, that's a feeling too. But in terms of self-sovereignty and all of the other things that Bitcoin really stands for, sticking it to the man, getting away from the government, that kind of thing, those are foundational beliefs that I think are just a slower sell than a quick blackjack hand, if you will. Okay, I'm going to turn this down because this is actually almost done. I'm actually going to turn this off because the burner is violent out. So if you can see, this obviously is a soup. It's soup season, guys. I also got a comment within the last couple days. Somebody said that they wanted to see the chili and cornbread recipe being made. I am happy to do that next week. I had just been grocery shopping and then I saw that comment. So I had already bought the ingredients to make this. But I promise you, next week we will chili and cornbread all day. So the only thing that remains as an open question for this chili and cornbread recipe, though, is beans or no beans. And I'm going to need you guys to comment and let me know, because this is like a house divided issue. There are people who are cool with beans in chili, and then there are people who aren't. And I'll eat it either way. I'm fine with either one, but you guys are going to have to let me know, because that will obviously greatly determine what happens with my grocery list. All right. This looks so good. It's also super hot. Okay. I am going to put away some ingredients here. I'm just going to put back behind me. Okay, and I will make myself a bowl. I am like hungry today. This is gonna have to cool down before I can eat it, otherwise I'm gonna burn the absolute ever-loving out of my mouth. It's clearly soup season because this was not washed and put away. This was just still in my dishwasher, because that's how much we've been enjoying soup season around here. Okay, the big reveal. Look at how fun this is. So this is all of the ingredients of, you know, a pasta, of noodles, of a lasagna. It's just that there is a lovely broth, and that makes it soupy. Okay. Then you're going to take a nice, decent sized spoonful of the lovely ricotta and cheese mixture. Let me get a different spoon. And as you swirl this around, you're going to notice that obviously the you know, the cheese just kind of starts to melt in. So it will change the color a little bit to more of like a rosé tone. But yeah, this looks so good. All right, here we go. This is gonna burn the shit out of my mouth. It's so good. It's so good. It's lasagna, but it's soup. Lasagna, but make it soup. It's delicious. All right. If you guys are down, let me see if I have any comments in the chat. I can't see any comments today. We'll go through one more scroll of some news just to see if I have missed anything super fun. Let me see, I'm gonna grab the camera. And let's see, Seismic adds $10 million from A16Z Crypto to expand fintech privacy network. I'm down with that. I do think that privacy in crypto is really something that kind of gets overlooked. We love the transparency of the blockchain, but ultimately it's probably not the safest thing for like Arkham, for instance, they publicly know whose wallet belongs to who a lot of the time. And, that's just not safe for people to be walking around with like a dollar amount broadcasted over their head. Obviously, France seems to be a country where there is a ton of organized crypto crime. A lot of people are ransomed, kidnapped, threatened. Um, it's just obviously it's very dangerous to go around broadcasting how much money you actually have. With fiat, you can have a general idea of somebody's net worth, especially in America. That's kind of a fixation of ours, right? To walk around and be like, oh, Taylor Swift is worth billions of dollars or whatever. But at the end of the day, like, we don't know the exact dollar amount in her bank account. And that kind of privacy, I think, is a right for you and your money and your sovereignty. So if the fact that these crypto addresses just have this like big dollar amount and people can be like, oh, I know who that is, that's probably not ultimately the safest way to go about this. So privacy networks, I think, this is a better idea for people and a safer idea. I know Tornado Cash gets a lot of shit because obviously they are a decentralized protocol and people ended up using them for laundering funds. But ultimately, I think there is a way to do the privacy thing without it being nefarious necessarily. And I know that Vitalik Buterin has offered up different ideas on this concept, that there are, they're essentially smaller pools of people that they've all kind of been verified to not be up to some shady shit. And they all, within that system, they can verify whether or not the funds came from a hack before they get released. Similar to like how Monero works, from what I understand. But the privacy conversation, I think, needs to happen sooner rather than later. And I've heard of people who are critical of Bitcoin, but they are still a Bitcoin maxi, but they still feel that the privacy issue needs to be solved. So it's definitely a conversation worth having. Let's see. And I am not sure like why this is going on, but I know that Hyperliquid has paused their deposits and withdrawals today. And it says amid PopCat trading scheme speculation. So they must think that somebody's up to something with the PopCat meme coin. It says decentralized perpetuals exchange. I'll send this link to you. If you have never used Hyperliquid, Hyperliquid is a decentralized way to trade perpetual futures and, long and short different projects. But it says Hyperliquid says it has paused deposits and withdrawals amid the speculation that a trader tried to manipulate the price of PopCat's meme coin. A screenshot from Hyperliquid showed that deposits and withdrawals were paused for maintenance around 11/22. An on-chain analyst speculated that Hyperliquid's decision to pause transactions came after a trader took to the decentralized perps exchange seeking to artificially prop up the price of PopCat. Hyperliquid gets a lot of shit. But yeah, whatever. I don't use Hyperliquid and I don't gamble on it. And I certainly don't think I would be using it to trade PopCat, but that's fairly interesting that this is the one they have chosen to do that with. All right, guys. I think we're going to wrap up the show just a little bit early today. If you enjoyed this recipe and, the lasagna soup here, make sure you give it a try at home. It is delicious. You can also have this recipe, like cut it in half, the amounts, if you want to make less of it. Or, feel free, triple, quadruple. I don't care how many people you're trying to serve. And next week, we will make chili and cornbread per the commented request. I love requests, so we're going to do that. And Monday, you will catch me at 12 p.m. Eastern, and we talk about some general news and prediction markets. We use Kalshi, and we just talk about some of the wildest bets that we can find. So I'm Jackie Dutton. If you liked this episode, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And I will see you guys next week, Monday and Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern on Let Her Cook, brought to you by BSCM.